Okay, watch this.
Hey, babe, have you ever had screwed up layers?
Oh yes.
You're supposed to say no, I cut your hair. Oh my gosh. Okay, but seriously,
When you haven't done it.
people are gonna think I don't know how to do layers now. Have you had layers screwed up since I did it?
You have not. I mean, I have not.
Look, screwed up layers happen all the time. Blunt lines, thick layers, I'm sure you've seen them. You've been in a situation where you had really choppy layers that you couldn't manage, or a really bold line that you didn't want to see, and you're like, dude, how do I make this go away? How do I thin this hair but not thin it? How do I do it right so that it blends the layers in but not jack it up? That's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna go through all the processes. I'm gonna give you all the insight, and hopefully I can get her to work a little bit better with me throughout the program. I don't know. So, let's dive in. So first off, we're obviously gonna need some tools. We're gonna need a comb. You can use any comb that you have, but typically one that's got a little bit closer teeth is gonna be a little bit easier to make sure that you're getting the right amount of tension and combing your hair cleanly. So I prefer that versus a wide tooth comb. You're gonna need some thinning shears, some straight shears, and some texturizing shears. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the difference between using thinning shears and texturizing shears. There is a difference between them. Now, if you look at the thinning shears, what you're gonna notice is the blade is the exact same size as the hole next to the blade, which means that effectively you're cutting out half of the hair. Texturizing shears, on the other hand, the blade is actually smaller than the hole next to it, which means you're removing less hair. And all that's really to say is that it's a little bit more forgiving. It allows you to cut in there and not take up too much length with the hair that you're taking out to blend out the line. So we're gonna walk through that process a little bit more, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about, but those are the tools you're gonna need. Now, let's dive into what creates these lines that you're gonna have to remove and then how to remove them. And if you have not already registered for a webinar where I go through all of the biggest mistakes that we see happening with doing hair at home, we talk about cutting, we talk about coloring, we tell you what the biggest mistakes are and more importantly, how to avoid them. If you want to register for that, click below and let us know. Okay, now first of all, if you've got fine hair or if you've got blonde hair or where she had a combination of both, this is when you're really most apt to see this kind of line or this blunt edge in your hair or the choppiness. If you've got thick hair, you may see it as well, depending on how the layers are cut. But either way, both of them can be removed, so that's what we're gonna focus on today. So usually what happens is if you take a section like this, right? I'm gonna pull some of this out of the way so that we don't, okay. Take a section like this, and you cut it totally blunt, like this, which is what happens a lot. When you cut it really blunt like this, that's what's going to leave a line when you comb it down. So now, when we comb this hair down, you're gonna have more of a tendency to see a little bit more of that line. Now, her hair blends reasonably well, and I can't bring it up to short enough to really make that really blunt, but I'll show you other examples of that right here so that you can see what I'm talking about. Now, what an easy way to get rid of that kind of line is using the texturizing shears. This is absolutely my method of choice. And again, it's just because it allows it to be a lot safer. You're taking out less hair. But all you would do is go in and you grab that line that you can see and you would just texturize the ends of it. So first things first is you want to make sure that you don't go down here with texturizing shears. And you go too low on the hair shaft, too far towards the scalp, it's gonna start thinning the ends out, and that's not what we're looking to do. If you go down here and you start texturizing in here, you can thin the ends out, and then wherever your hair is thick, so if I had texturized, thin this end out from here up, and all of a sudden it's thick to here, and then it gets really thin towards the ends, your hair is gonna act like it's this long, even though it's this long. And what that means is you're gonna get this to hold bend when you're trying to create shape, but then you're gonna have these ends that just kind of hang there and don't really hold any shape, and they're gonna look kind of dead, and it's gonna be frustrating. So don't do that. You wanna get just at the very ends, and all you're gonna do is comb that up, and you're gonna take these texturizing shears, and you're just going to texturize the ends a little bit. And all we're looking really to do here is just break that line up so that it's not a perfect line. So I'll just kind of go through and see how that just breaks up the ends. That's all we're doing. It's just the very last, say, half an inch of the hair. It breaks it up so it's not such a bold line. And because of that, now it allows us to blend this even more. When we comb this down, you're not gonna be able to see those ends at all. They're not gonna leave any of that line. So that's one simple way. Now the technique with thinning shears would be the exact same thing. The only difference is when you go in to remove that line, it just means that you're gonna be taking more out. So every time I go in here and I hit these shears, it's gonna take out half of that hair versus say 40% of the hair or 30% of the hair that the texturizing shears are taking out. So you can do that, just realize that this is gonna take more length because it's gonna be taking more of those ends off. So it's the same exact technique, you just are getting a little bit more aggressive with thinning shears. And again, that's why I always lean towards texturizing shears. Now, there is one other technique that you can use, and that would be what we call point cutting. This is very specific because point cutting will remove length as well if you don't do it correctly. Technically speaking, point cutting is just whenever you take the shears, instead of putting them like blunt like this, which is what created that line in the first place, it's when you actually take them and point them into the hair and you cut like this. Now the thing is, the more angled you put those shears towards the hair, the more length you're gonna take off. So you wanna make sure that you're going at a more direct angle, so you directly into the hair to break that line up, but not take off too much length. If you go in and do this, you're just gonna have a big notch there. It will blend technically better than the blunt line, but it also could create its own issues and create another line that you might see. And notice how I'm pulling out as I'm cutting. I'm not going in and just cutting off. You can do that as well, but again, this is just a little safer because you're making sure that those shear blades close a little bit higher up towards the ends, so you're taking less hair. It's a little bit less deep. If I go in here and I cut that, if I angle this too much and it's too low, that means I could take a lot of length out, a lot of hair out of there, and that might be more than you're looking for. So straight in like this, and that's just gonna break up those lines a little bit more. And again, that's gonna help blend out that line. One thing that you wanna remember is if you have curly or wavy hair, you wanna make sure that you straighten your hair before you do this. If you pull your hair up to try to texturize those ends and it's really wavy and it's curly and it's coming out at the ends, it's gonna be hard to tell where on that hair you are actually cutting, and it's easy to take out too much. If you go through and flat iron it, and I get you're not gonna wear it flat ironed, you're gonna be able to blend that line out a whole lot easier. You're gonna be able to tell exactly where you are, kind of like with ninja precision. Does that make sense? Ninja precision, you're gonna go in there and it just, wah, 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 wah,
No.
wah, wah,
I'm sorry.
okay, ninja precision, that's how you're gonna do it. So flat iron your hair and then wear it curly again. That's great, but you're gonna see a big difference. It's gonna be a lot easier when you do it straight. Okay, now, with that said, now that you understand kind of what's going on, I want you to go through the process of having you do it for you so that you can see what it looks like to have it done on yourself, because it's gonna look a bit different on how you hold shears when you do it versus the way I do it. Okay, so you're going to turn around, because this is what you would do. You would look in the mirror and you would see, oh my gosh, where's that spot? So grab that spot. Grab the part that you wanna fix. Perfect, okay, now pull that up and hold on to it. Now you would turn around. Now, first of all, notice real quickly, this is slight. Seems like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. Recognize that you can move your hand around and still this is gonna stay at the same point. So it doesn't mean that now that it's up and you've pulled it up that you have to stay rigid like this, because that's really hard to manage.
My arm's getting kind of tired.
Exactly, so bring it down. Now it's right in front of you. Now you can move it out because your hair's got some length to it. If your hair's a little bit shorter, obviously you're gonna pull it up and it's gonna be a little bit easier for you because you're not up here like this. I'm gonna show you the straight shears first because then we can go back through and use the texturizing shears. Okay, so take that. Now, what are you gonna do with it?
Now I'm going to make sure that I'm going pretty much up and down, right? Is what you said?
Yep.
And then I'm gonna, when I close it, I'm actually gonna go in an upwards position.
Cool, so do it.
So,
perfect. Now, there's two things going on here. This is perfect. There's two things going on here that are important for you guys to recognize. Wherever you hold your hair, it's your hands. You know what you're not gonna do? You're not gonna cut your fingers. I mean, you could, so don't do that, but you're not on purpose, probably, going to cut your fingers. So just know that wherever you're holding that section of hair, that's how far you're gonna allow yourself to go in and texturize. Then all you're gonna do is just move those fingers up a little bit higher and a little bit less hair sticking out, that means that you're gonna only be doing a little bit less at the end. So it's gonna be a little bit safer.
So there's probably 2 ways that we could do this, because right now I'm actually staring, which is making my eyes cross.
You would wanna be in the mirror.
Look in the mirror.
Yep,
Yeah.
spot on.
Okay.
So yeah, you would look in the mirror. Now just remember that when you're looking in the mirror, it might seem a little bit awkward to you. So it's actually gonna be harder for you to do right now specifically, babe, because you're so far from the mirror.
Yeah.
What you'd wanna do at this point is get closer to the mirror so that the mirror is like right in your face so that you can see it, but you're not like cross-eyed trying to see it right here. That's perfect. You see how she's going in, she's closing the blades, but she's closing them on the way out, not on the way in. Guys, that's a minute thing, but I'm a person that believes that it's the small things that add up to create something big. So for me, that is something that I feel like you should try to do. If you have to go in and close it because you just are not getting any hair when you come out, then that's fine. Then that would just mean that you would want to make sure that your fingers are closer to the ends so that you don't end up taking too much. Now, you're not taking a lot off. Are you noticing that?
Yeah.
And part of the reason is because she's so up and down, that she's so parallel with the hair that it's taking a little bit less off. So yeah, so you can now move that angle a little bit less up and down with the hair, a little bit less parallel to the hair, and you're gonna remove a little bit more. And you just keep on doing that until you feel like you've got it jagged enough to where it blends. One way you can do that is just to let it hang down and take a look at it and comb through it and say, is it blending enough? And if it's not blending enough, then you do a little bit more. So now that you know that, I'm gonna steal that. That's that technique. Now let's move into the texturizing shears. So I'm gonna have you comb this out again. Perfect, okay. Now you can see that even though she did that, the line is a little bit more broken up than it was, but there's definitely still a line there. So I'm gonna have you hand me the comb there. Okay, now you're gonna take these texturizing shears, and this is where you would really not wanna be too close. You wanna be farther away and kind of in the mirror at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. See how she's starting to break those up? Now let's take a look at it. That's good. Now when we comb that out, you can still see that there's still length there, but if you look at it, you'll notice that it's more broken up. It's not quite as blunt. And a lot of times, that's all it takes. It just takes that little bit to blend that line out and not see that choppiness. That's all you're trying to do. That's where I was gonna say draw the line. I didn't even mean to do it, but that's where we draw the line or take the line out.
You're punny.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. Really? Wow. So what I need you to do right now is watch this video right here. That's going to help you understand how to do front layering as well. And otherwise, I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out. If you like the content, you know where the subscribe button is. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.